Yo.
What up? What up?
Yo, welcome to episode 19.
Oh, snap.
We there, man. 19 of the Carbon Footprint. We're enjoying a little Robert Mondavi cab today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One of our faves. It's probably our go-to. We've had this one a few times.
We've had this one a few times, yeah.
Yeah, man.
It's cheap.
It's cheap.
It's cheap,
cheap and delicious.
Good.
Yeah, man, it's good.
For those of you who are new to the show, Juan and I get together. So he's Juan, I'm Sean. We get together once a week, have a couple of drinks, and talk about everything that interests us. But things that are going on around the world. Try to focus on things that are making an impact, whether they are positive, negative, or otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that, I know you got your first carbon footprint of the week, man. Hit me with it.
Listen, man, somebody who left their carbon footprint, man, to me is and I wish that they had his name in here. I couldn't find his name, but it's a Volusia County sheriff. But I'm also going to shout out one of the guys, Joseph Griffin. So Joseph Griffin is a guy who's jogging in Deltona, which is actually really close to where we do this podcast. He's jogging, he gets pulled over, or actually the cops, pull up to him. And say that he fits a description of a suspect that they're looking for and all that. And from both sides, it went about as textbook as you could expect. Now, I know people will argue about him just being stopped in the first place and all that. But I think that's what I liked about this. This cop went out of his way to reassure him, like, hey, man, like, look, you fit the description. White tank top, black shorts is exactly what you have. Beard, what you have. Black male, you're a black male. So like he goes down the line and then, multiple times throughout the altercation goes, I don't think you're him, but we just have to verify that it's not you. Right. And so it's a whole 25-minute long encounter. They run his ID. They do the whole thing. But I thought it was the officer I think recognizing the climate that we're in right now. The officer handled that about as well as you could expect. And then so did Joseph, man. Joseph was compliant, which people always say you should be, right? Was respectful. And then the officer, I think, understanding the climate went, I think the other part that people kind of forget about is that if I agitate this guy, right, or make him feel unsafe because of everything going on, then this could potentially lead into a bad situation, right? So he's almost apologetic in how he kind of approaches him. And I just thought it was such a great way to handle that. And Joseph handled it spectacularly as well, to the point where they offer him a job about, I think, being able to talk about diversity and handling those certain those scenarios, I guess, with the cops.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So the Volusia County Sheriff actually offered him a job. He turned it down. I think he's a first responder. So shout out to him, because right now it's not a great time to be.
So do we not have the officer's name?
I don't have the officer's name, and I wish I did. Because shout out to that guy, because I know I'm usually super critical of cops as of late. But I would say that this guy's training and I think recognition of the current environment we're in was awesome. I mean, you couldn't ask a guy to handle that better.
Volusia County?
It was Volusia County Sheriff, and the incident was in Deltona. So,
awesome. So shout out to the Volusia County Sheriff Department, man. I mean, if those guys are, doing extra training, or if these officers are just being extra sensitive because of the climate. Shout out to those guys for recognizing that, right, and handling the situation in a manner where it wouldn't be escalated. So,
no, that was awesome. Fantastic. I know the guy who runs it, who spoke on behalf of the sheriff department, is a guy named Mike Chitwood, but I didn't have the name of the actual officer who made the stop. But I think at one point there was even an officer going, hey, I'm not going to let anything happen to you. Like multiple officers pull up and they just keep telling him, hey, listen, we're not going to let anything happen to you. We want to just do this. So I just thought it was, again, just such a cool way to handle this. And again, I'm always super critical of cops. And I thought, I want to give credit where credit is due. And then obviously things like this are what we're talking about when we say cops need to be trained better, cops need to handle these scenarios better, need to de-escalate. And obviously there was a ton of bad scenarios this week, but I wanted to shout out the positive one.
Absolutely.
Because I think it's a good example of what these interactions should look like, I think, from both sides.
Yep. And you know what, man? And you do that enough and for long enough time, it just becomes normal, and then the fear goes away. Right. And then you don't have to have all of the reassuring. Right. Then it's just a normal interaction, between two people.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. I got my carbon footprint of the week. I got to give it to the folks out in a new place, I guess, called Freedom, Georgia. So 19 families got together. 19 black families got together, and they purchased 96 acres of land in Georgia, and they're calling it Freedom, Georgia. They're trying to make it sort of like a tight knit community where they'll have like their own housing. They want to build their own food systems. They want to build their own schools, their own banks and credit unions, their own police departments, and it's all really in an effort to provide a space where Black people can feel safe.
Yep.
And so it's funny, man, because when you read about stuff like this, there's always the different sides, right? Where somebody goes, hey, well, that's segregation, right? And so I want to make it clear that it's not just for Black people, but it's basically an area that's built by Black people for Black people, right? So for Black people to feel safe. However, anyone is welcome.
Yeah, they're welcoming anyone, and I think the initial idea is that they're gonna have kind of vacation homes and then host weddings and like almost like a park, like a vacation area where they're gonna have lakes for fishing and all this stuff, and then eventually get incorporated and try to become an actual town. Yeah. So I think step one is basically running it almost like a reserve type thing or like a vacation reserve. But yeah, and like I've heard people, or I've seen the comments online of like, oh yeah, it's segregation, or like, oh, if there was a white community, people would be outraged.
All right.
Like to that, I say, man, all right, so every town has the Black part of town, right? Or like the Spanish part of town, or the Chinatown, or almost every town has that, right? I would say there's a reason why those things happen, and I would encourage you to find out why there's no such thing as the white part of town. It's because every part of town is you know what I mean, except for the designated areas. And so there's a history behind all that. So I always, and the people who argue that won't go look, but I'm like, every town has a reason of why these certain people from a specific community or a culture or a race have gone to this certain section and have essentially segregated themselves there. There's a reason for it in every town, and it's usually behind comfort and feeling safe and feeling accepted and all this stuff.
I did hear a story, man, on another podcast that I listened to. The guy was from Barbados, and he grew up, and obviously in Barbados it's like probably 99% Black, right? But he told a story of a guy from India that came over by himself and started like to sell things. So he was alone, kind of living in sort of a really small place, and then he said slowly, he brought like his wife over and his kids over, and then he sort of kept on selling things and sort of building up, some sort of wealth, right? And then he brought in another family. And then he goes, and then he left Barbados, and then he came back, many years later, and like that community, that there was sort of a community of people from India that brought up the whole block. And so, you can see like you mentioned Chinatown, right? And there's like Little Italy, and right, and so when you get around the folks that if you get around the folks that you're comfortable with, and then in this situation, like if they can have their own police force, right? Then it's like what we talked about before, where you have Blacks policing Blacks. They understand each other. Yep. And they're from the communities that they're policing. And it's a lot of times now, especially in the poorer Black areas, you're not getting those guys that are growing up to become police officers and policing that area. So kudos to those guys, man, and hopefully that was out for them. One thing, man, was they drew what word am I looking for? Oh, inspiration from Black Panther. And so, a couple of weeks ago we talked about Chadwick Boseman dying and like the impact that he had. And we had some folks reach out to us on social media and was like, hey, you guys forgot about some of the other like Black superheroes. And yes, we didn't mention really any others. But looking at the impact that Black Panther had, from that guy sort of like being a king, living in this area where their technology was crazy, right? They were smart, affluent,
curing diseases.
Curing diseases. They didn't really need anyone. And then even him in that movie of learning that things that his father did that were wrong, and then him correcting them. And then at the very end, going, what? It's not even right that we don't share this with the world. and him bringing it to the world, right? And then going back into the poor communities and going, I'm going to bring you up. You know, it's like inspiration all around, and that clearly has hit, you know, has hit the market now, right? And where folks are going, you know what? Like, we need to be doing that.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and it's I don't want to say a shame. Maybe it's needed at this time, but I feel like minorities, black people in general right now feel like they have to showcase themselves as, hey, we're not what you think we are. And so maybe by creating this community, you go, look, we're smart. Look, we're outdoorsy. Look, we can farm. Look, we can create a police force. Look, we can build. Look, we, you know, like, it's almost like a constant, you know, and I think being a minority, we can relate to that a little bit, where
Yeah, definitely.
you feel like you're constantly trying to like oversell yourself or overprove yourself, right? I would say I've never felt, I don't know that I've ever been passed up for something, right? Because I'm a minority, but I will say it's always in the back of my mind of, I feel like I have to work harder because I am, or like I don't want that to be the excuse, right? So I do feel like I overcompensate for that sometimes, or at least I used to. So I feel like at this point, you know, in building this community, you go, man, it's something beautiful. But then I can't help but think of the underlying issue of, I'm trying to prove that we're worthy people, almost, in a sense. Right. Like, maybe if I build this utopia like a Wakanda was in Black Panther, right? Because Wakanda wouldn't have worked if Wakanda looked like LA, right? But Wakanda worked because it was a utopia that everything about it was perfect. And so I think as Black people, you feel like we have to be perfect for people to be accepting. I think that's why I have so much respect for someone like Barack, you know, not to get political, but you go, because he was the first, he had to be perfect. Like, you never saw scandals. And obviously there's all these political things. I don't want to get into that, but as a human being, he had to be perfect. And so did Michelle, because you're almost overcompensating for the fact that you're Black, and you go, I'm the first. I certainly don't want to be the last. And so you have to carry yourself with a certain, I think, a level of care and dignity that a white person wouldn't have had to, because you're afforded the opportunity to make mistakes, which you're not right now as a Black person, or as any minority, I think, in this country right now. Is your mistakes, I think, carry more weight. So
yeah. All right. So like I said, kudos to those guys. Also this week, man, there was a World War II vet, Mr. Lawrence Brooks. He turned 111.
Damn.
Right? Turned 111 on Saturday. And I saw a picture of this guy, right? And so I have some elderly folks in my family. And I was like, he looks maybe like 80 or 90. And then I'm going,
Black don't crack, bro.
That's it. Black don't crack.
He Black crack.
Yep. Yeah. He Black. And I was
going to say, or he Asian. Asian don't raise me.
But I'm going, this dude is able to say, you know, 30 years ago when I was 81. And then it got me thinking, man, right? Because you know how we do. It got me going down a rabbit hole, and I'm going, like, how long do you want to live? Like, God bless him, right? Like 111, that's amazing. How long do you want to live? And then so I started doing like research. I'm just like, okay, like what's the average age? And it's usually between like 70 and 80. You know, if you live in a first world country. Because there is some things, if you don't live in a first world country and you don't have access to medication and just sort of like what we would deem to be sort of standard.
But it's not even the United States, right? Like we don't have top 10 longevity.
No, well, we're not I don't know if we're top 10. I don't know if we're top 10. I don't know if we're top 20. I think the place on earth that has the most is someplace in Italy.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, right?
It's an island in Italy. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like everybody lives to 100, something like that, right?
It's like normal.
Yeah, it's normal.
Yeah.
Yep. But I started doing some research, and there's companies out there, man, that are willing for a fee, of course, to cryogenically freeze you in hopes that in the future medicines will be better, and by then they'll sort of be like a cure for death. And then they can revive you and then cure you of your sort of like oldness.
It's the best business model ever.
So I looked at, and there's the prices for this is like $200K, right? But there's this company out there, and I'll let you guys Google it. It's called the Cryonics Institute, and they will do it for cool 30 G's.
That's cheap. That's on the cheap. So for 30 G's, wait, but do you have to die first of natural causes?
Yes, only because right now it's illegal to do it when you're alive.
Because they're gonna
It's
kill
kind
you,
of like
basically.
they're gonna kill you, right? Well, no, they wouldn't be. And so, dude, the whole science behind it is kind of crazy
Some
because
demolition man shit.
because it's basically like they're basically freezing you, and like and again, don't quote me on this, folks. Like I say, go out, please do your own research. We are not scientists here, but essentially, because your body's made up of water and water expands when it's frozen. There is a method to doing this so that your insides don't expand and explode essentially.
Oh snap!
But yeah, they do it for like a cool. It's like 20
cool 30.
a cool 30 G. It's like 28. It's 28 grand, right? They're actually saying that you can even get life insurance that will pay for this.
Wait, so your life insurance, the payout will pay for you to get frozen?
Yeah, if you have enough in the, you could essentially
use part of the life insurance.
Use
So
part of life insurance to do it, to freeze you.
Bro, do you know that is the most genius business model of all time? Who's coming back for their money? Yeah, and if they do, then you succeeded.
Right. But
who's asking for a refund?
There's no
There's no downside.
Well, there's no timetable either.
Bro,
right?
I think we should sell if we ever build a better car than anything that exists now, then you guys can have. We can take I don't even know what to call it, man. Pre-orders for a vehicle that runs off water. And if we ever make a vehicle that runs off water, you can have it for a cool 100,000. And then we just never make the car for how does this work?
So we just keep putting stuff out there like we are building.
Like we trying.
Hire a few engineers.
Yeah, I think it'll work. Nobody listens to this anyway. They wouldn't know that it's a scam.
They'll all smoke weed in the back until we bring somebody in to tour the facility.
Till people stop. the pre-orders stop coming in. Be like, nah, we're gonna build a car that runs off water. Oh,
but dude, how long do you want to live? You know what? I was, and again, like I said, you know how we do when we talk. I was having a conversation with myself in the head, and I'm going, you know what? The whole fear of death always goes no, I want to live forever, right? But then if you live forever, then there's no, there's no sense of urgency to do anything.
I don't romanticize that at all. I'm afraid to die, so and maybe it's an age thing. I'm at the age where I'm I never want to die, right? I want to live forever, but I'm going to assume that at some point I'm going to get to 70, 80 and I'm going to go, shit hurts. I want to go.
Dude, but what do you do if think about it, man, when you get to that age and then your siblings are dying, your friends are dying. Again, like you said, you start to have all of these sort of ailments and you're not in the best health or what have you. At some point, I would imagine that you go yep, it was a good ride.
I think maybe when that stuff becomes intolerable, right? Because then quality of life becomes an issue. So if I was laying in bed all day or I couldn't walk or I couldn't do stuff, I don't think I'd want to be around for that. But yeah, I have this suffocating fear of death. So I can't. The thought of even dying gives makes me anxious. It's literally desperately anxious. So I think of I'm riding on the fact that somebody's gonna figure out how to make us live to 150 or 200. Right. Because you've seen these scientists now that think they've figured it out. It's gonna happen. Now, whether or not it happens in our lifetime, I don't know, man. If I live another 50 years, it might happen in our lifetime. When you said elderly earlier, I'm thinking Latinos, bro. We be 63, looking messed up. So I'm I don't know, man.
Not Mr. Brooks, man. Mr. Brooks is looking about. I looked at him and said, he's probably about 90.
A day over 90.
Probably about 90.
And he's 111. And he's walking, on his own power. Dude, walking.
They had a whole birthday celebration in front of his house. He was out standing on his porch, receiving they were singing. They were doing some World War II stuff. They had some women out in front of his front porch or fence singing, and part of his family was there. And so the guy looked to be in decent. Well, no, sorry, he looked to be in fantastic health. For 111.
Yeah, for 111. Because damn, man, I know, again, man, in Latinos, I know some 62-year-olds couldn't blow out their birthday candles. And this dude's 111.
I know a couple of 55-year-olds looking real hurt these days.
Seriously, man. I'm like, Jesus, that's awesome, man. Good. Shout out to that guy, dude. That you live to 111. I always think about. I love talking to people who are older like that because just they've seen so much. Like, and I'm always fascinated. Like someone like that, World War II. Like, I'd be so curious to hear like his thoughts on everything. Like, man, did you guys know what was going on with Hitler at the time? Did you know like the Pearl Harbor thing? Like, how did that impact the country? Like,
dude, it's funny that you said that. So there was one thing that I read about him, and he said that during that time, he spent some time over in Australia, and he says one of the things that he remembers about being in Australia was that the people there actually treated him better than the folks here in the States.
Which makes sense.
At the time.
Still segregation at that time.
Yep.
And depending on where in the country he lived, it was really bad. So if he was from the South, it's probably terrible.
I didn't see, I don't think I wrote down, I didn't see where he was from.
See, so if he's from the West Coast or maybe the Northeast, it's a little better. But if he's from the South, it's definitely has shitty. You know, it's interesting that he says that. I wonder, was he ever tempted to stay somewhere like that? Going, wow, they treat me like a person here.
That's true.
Like, were you tempted to stay?
I think you come back and you go, my family's here.
Yeah, maybe. But do you tell your family, like, yo, we got to figure out how to move to Australia? Yeah, like, I would think I would try to figure that out. Like, yo, how do I immigrate to Australia? Like, they treated us like people over there. They were so nice. Like, I don't.
Yeah, that's true, man.
I remember, and again, I don't know if it's true. God, what? Actually, I think it was a show I was telling you earlier. There's a part in The Watchmen that they talk about the war. They're in the war. And as a tactic, and again, this is probably a fictional
World War II?
World War II.
Okay.
Either World War I or II. Actually, it might have been World War I. So I'm gonna say World War One. But it's part of the show. And again, this is but I wonder if it was inspired by true events. They drop letters to black soldiers, like black platoons, saying like, "Hey, they don't even like you.
They don't like you." Oh, yes. Didn't that? Was that in that movie? The one you gave to me? No, that wasn't in that movie.
I think it was in Watchmen that I saw. I think it was in the show. The Watchmen.
I have seen that, and I want to say it was in a movie with Vietnam.
It was the Five Bloods. It was the Five Bloods. It's what it was. Actually, I'm so wrong. It was the Chadwick Boseman movie. Because oddly enough, I saw that movie like a week before he passed.
Oh, okay.
And they were getting letters going like, "Hey,
that was Vietnam.
Like, it was Vietnam.
Yes,
You're right.
Vietnam.
You're absolutely right." And they were like literally dropping letters to troops, and almost like mental warfare, right? Going like, "Hey, you're on. Like, why are you? These guys don't even respect you. Like, why are you fighting for the United States?" And you think as a black soldier, I'd be super conflicted because they're not wrong. Like, I'd be like, damn. Like, wait. So if I
Well, you got to think, man, that was all around like the Martin Luther King time,
Yes.
Malcolm X time, right?
and then he gets killed while they're there, right? Like he gets murdered during Vietnam.
Is that right?
In the movie, he is killed while they're in Nam. Now, whether that happened in real life, I can't. I went to community college, man. I don't know.
It's Spike Lee, bro. It's probably right. Did Spike Lee?
You're right.
Spike Lee's the
good.
one that did that movie.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if he did that, it's probably right.
Yeah, and in that movie, they find out that Martin Luther King dies while they're there, and while they're getting these letters going, "Hey, why are you fighting for the United States? They don't give a shit about you. Like, come to the Vietnamese side, type thing."
Right.
Or actually, I don't even think they say come. I think it's just like planting a seed of going, they don't even care about you guys. They don't even care about you, and they would just drop that. Which, to be honest, is kind of genius. It's a genius tactic. Like if we're ever at war, I'd use that tactic today. Black soldiers, I'd be like, "Hey, man. They don't even care about you guys over there. Our cops won't shoot you." You start dropping stuff like.
It'd be a perfect time to do it.
It'd be a perfect time to do it now because all this is kind of like resurfaced. Go ahead.
No, so the other thing that this week was the anniversary of 9/11. I'm sure you remember where you were. I think we all remember where we were during that time. But one of the things I found fascinating, man. So I do troll social media every now and then. And so the number one trending topic on Twitter during that time, on that day, was never forget. The number two, all buildings matter.
I love that.
Listen, man, we're both from the Northeast. I'm a former New Yorker. Like, obviously 9/11, tragic. If you have lost anybody, at 9/11, like no one that died that day should have died. Like it is tragic, and so we are not. And I am.
It's terrible. It was terrible.
We're not making fun of it.
It's a shitty time in history. We're not making fun of that.
But the internet trolls used 9/11 to bring light to the BLM movement and to COVID-19. So with obviously the all buildings matter, right? Like that, I was just like, it is. And it's funny. It's actually pretty genius.
It is. And so to give you like a little background, I think Michael Shea. So he's a comedian. He's on Saturday Night Live. Actually, he does the weekly update with Colin Yost on Saturday Night Live. They're the two guys. It's the black guy and the white guy who do the like the news update of the week on Saturday night. So anyway, Michael Shea has a stand-up special on Netflix. If you guys haven't seen it, it's fantastic. It's from like 2016. I think the name of the special is something to do with like All Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, something like. Oh no, it's called Michael Shea Matters, something like that. The name of the special. Okay. So anyway, this is like at the onset of Colin Kaepernick initially taking a knee and BLM kind of kicking off, and he does a whole bit about how black people are constantly kind of berated about like, man, slavery was 200 years ago, get over that. Man, segregation was like 40 years ago, get over that. Man, and then like by the end of it, like the punchline to the joke is like, oh, 9/11, never forget. And he goes, like, how come we're not? And then I think the actual punchline to the joke is something like, yeah, I can't wait till 9/11. I'm gonna wear a shirt that says all buildings matter, something like that, like a T-shirt.
Okay.
And it starts from that. But
he started that.
He started that years ago.
How many years ago was it?
It's like 4 years ago, but wow. I think it started to resurface and play around the internet now because of obviously everything going on. So it's getting more hype now. Michael Shea is a fantastic comedian. I mean, there's a reason he's on Saturday Night Live. That special was brilliant, but the lead up to that is so great because he talks about black people just want to matter. And he goes like, what's lower than matters? He goes, gay people want equality. He's like, can you imagine asking for equality as a black guy? We just want to matter. And it's such a brilliant take on it,
right? That
he goes, and obviously it's a play on it. He's not making fun of gay people, but he just goes like the audacity, like they want to be equal. Like we just want to matter, and it's such a well-crafted bit, which full of so much truth. And then it's so relevant, and you go, it's 4 years later, and we're still talking about it. Yeah. Which I'm sure people from 50 years ago would go, we're still talking about it. Like if you march with Martin Luther King, you're going, we're still talking about this. Like, how is this possible?
It's funny, man, because I watch, and I have friends from like all across the spectrum, right? And some of them, they do like like all lives matter, and it's like, yes, all lives do matter, but all lives aren't under attack right now. And it's like it's and that's why I thought the 9/11 thing was, the all buildings matter thing was very relevant, because it's like, yes, like look at that, right? Like when the buildings were on fire, it's like everybody converges on the buildings that are on fire to try to do what they can to save people, to save the building, what have you. And we didn't go and tend to other buildings. So while yes, all the buildings in New York City mattered, on that day that was on fire, we needed all hands on deck to take care of that. And that is precisely what that African American community is looking for. It's just, hey, can we like all hands on deck, like deal with this thing that we know is a problem?
There's an implied two at the end of Black Lives Matter, right? Like, in other words, Black Lives Matter also, right? It shouldn't have to be said, but I think it's implied, right? Like, and I think people oftenly confuse Black Lives Matter with anti-white. And it's not that at all. It's Black Lives Matter also. Like, can we get a break here? It's funny, man, that you say that about the all buildings matter, because you know how petty I am? For about 3 or 4 months now, I've been waiting for October to come around. Listen, I'm dumb petty. I have like distant relatives, like on Facebook, maybe like second or third cousins or people I just don't talk to anymore, who just retweet or I shouldn't even say retweet,
this
whatever
is
the
not
fuck.
Gonna be good.
No, it's not. Listen, they reshare shit on Facebook, like the All Lives Matter stuff, or we'll go on these rants about All Lives Matter. Just like listen. Racist Latinos are the worst because they don't even have like the privilege to back it up, right? Like you get treated like shit and you hate on your own people. Like, it's so nuts. But anyway, so I have a lot of these family members who I know who always, in October, they go in on the whole Pinktober thing and they post their little ribbons and they go Pinktober, blah, blah, blah. And they have been just sharing All Lives Matter shit for the last few months. So I've been waiting for October because I'm going to comment on every single time they post a fucking pink ribbon. I'm just going to go hashtag all diseases matter under all of their posts. And listen, I'm telling you right now, y'all better get ready. If you know who you are and you listen to this, just go ahead and block me now, because I'm making it my mission in life. October 1st, I'm scrolling every single day. I'm scrolling, and I'm just going to copy and paste hashtag all diseases matter. That's all I'm saying. I can't wait. I might take the day off just to make sure I got time to get to shit on October 1st.
Bro, so that was the other thing that was happening. So they used the 9/11 thing to kind of bring light to COVID.
Okay.
And and I gotta read this because it was so genius. It was like 2,977 people died on 9/11, but 94% had pre-existing conditions. So actually, only 178 died from terrorist attacks.
I hate the internet, yo.
Bro, oh my God. And like I said, if you lost anybody on 9/11, like this is not a hit against that.
Of course not, man.
I mean, listen, but man, the internet is undefeated.
Oh, it's so great, man.
It's
undefeated. Undefeated, man. That's so great. I saw a few rolling around about like how many people died in 9/11 and how many people have died in COVID. And it's kind of like that shit happens kind of because I think it's like, what is it, 3,500, 9/11, 4,000? It's a lot. It's a few thousand, but we have almost 200.
2,977.
So we have almost 200,000. We have 180,000 from COVID, right?
It's something like that. And they're going like, damn, these are like the ones we're doing now. It's like, all for the economy. But then the 4,000 in 9/11, it's like, oh, never forget those guys, which again, tragic, shitty. You would hope something like that never happens on American soil. It's devastating. I can't imagine getting on a plane and having to do I couldn't bring myself to go into the 9/11 memorial. I've been on the outside. And even on the outside, man, eerie,
there's
the ghosts, bro.
The first time I went to New York, they hadn't finished the memorial yet. And the subway, and if you've ever been to New York, there's a stop at the World Trade, which you're a New Yorker, and it opened now into a crater. And it used to be that you got out and you went up staircase and you were in front of the Twin Towers, right?
Right.
The first time I went back to New York, I remember being in the train and then daylight hit. And I thought it was odd. And I remember getting out of the train and walking up the steps, and you're literally in a crater of where the towers used to be.
Oh, wow.
And, and you get out and it's kind of adjacent to it. But I remember going there and they were cleaning out the site. They hadn't built it yet. This was maybe 3-4 years after it happened. It was still under construction, like cleanup. It was wild. And I remember it hitting me there like, damn, because I grew up right across the bay in Jersey where you could look across the Hudson and you could see the towers. You could see the skyline. And the New York skyline is like everyone would be able to identify. Yeah, it's iconic. Yep. So it's devastating. But I think, not that I think this is funny, but it does help to point out some of the hypocrisies, I think, in how we treat certain things in that. And I think we'll get to something when we get to sports later, which I think further kind of cements some of the hypocrisy in this whole. And maybe we can just get into that now.
Let's just go into it, man.
Yeah. So Chiefs, Texans kick off football Thursday night. So they do national anthem. They do the Black national anthem. The Houston Texans stay in the locker room for both. Kansas City comes out. Most of their players stand, maybe a couple kneel. And then all the players come out and they say, let's all join hands together in unity. No flag involved, no anthems involved, no military involved, nothing. And you can hear the crowd boo when the announcer goes, we're linking arms, to basically a moment of silence for unity or to stand together in unity. Right. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why people were booing. And then it hit me. And it was like, these people, they treat black people like gladiators. Just go out there and perform. Shut up and dribble, or shut up and tackle, right. Shut up. And it was like and I think we've all known, at least, I think certainly in the minority community, it's never been about a flag. It's never been about military. It's never been about kneeling. It's never been, I think those are the excuses that we use to kind of like, give the wrist slap to guys who attempt this. Something like, hey, let's link arms for equality, drew that kind of response from people.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. And there's like a whole, like, there are people that are protesting watching the NFL and watching the NBA, because of the stance of the players of wanting to end, racial injustice and social inequality. Like, man, like, don't we all want that? I mean, I guess not, right? Like, what?
No, not if you're, I guess, someone who's anti. I don't know. I don't even know how to word that.
It's strange, man. What I will say on a high note is on that Kansas City and Houston game, there was like $600 million of quarterbacks, and that was just two of them on the field, right? And they were both black.
And they were both black, man. Good for them. But they need to get to the point where they're the guys signing the checks for those quarterbacks. And I think that's a world that we want to get to is how do you give these guys, they're paid, and people go like, oh, these whiny athletes are getting paid all this money, and, you know, they're quote unquote oppressed. You don't have to be oppressed, I think, to stand against oppression on other people, right? But I think, you know, there's that old Chris Rock, and I bring up comedy a lot because I'm a nerd and I'm a comedy nerd, but there's that old Chris Rock bit that's like, Shaq is rich. The white guy who signs his check is wealthy.
Right.
And I think we want to get to a point in time where the wealth and opportunity and all that is distributed equally, or the opportunities are there equally, right? Like
the opportunity.
The opportunities.
Right, because wealth is
Tyler
not...
Perry just made it billionaire status. So shout out to Tyler Perry.
Oh, nice.
Tyler Perry went from being a homeless guy to a billionaire, is building a compound essentially where he films his own movies and TV shows and all this stuff. And
it's all in Atlanta, right?
Yep.
Or it's in Georgia.
And he kept it in Georgia. He didn't go Hollywood. He kept it in Georgia. He's and actually, I would say most movies now, I think including Avengers, we were talking about Black Panther, I think that was filmed in Georgia, because Georgia gives better tax breaks and things like that than California to studios. But Tyler Perry had a lot to do with that.
And I think there's a, you know, obviously a big black population in Atlanta, and so he can draw on more talent, because obviously he tries to uplift his own people.
On his people. And listen, the knock on Oprah has always been that she didn't use her platform to uplift other black, and I don't know enough. I've never done the research. I have seen that the knock on Oprah has always been she takes the opportunities to knock down black folks. And listen, you should be equal opportunity. I know Oprah does her specials on molesters and all kinds of crap, and she should definitely hit on black or white or whatever that is, you know, whatever she's trying to fill. But I think they felt like she had that platform and she never did enough to uplift black people. Tyler Perry has done so much, I would say, for the black community as far as movies and TV shows and giving them opportunities. And then he taught, and you and I always talk about this, it's like, we've done okay in life, and then we go, how do we teach our kids to do better than we did? And I think Tyler Perry did something that was, I can get paid to do a movie, that's awesome. I can get paid to do a play, that's awesome. I can get paid for all these rights. How do I have ownership in that stuff, right? Like, right. He didn't just do the movie. He goes, I want to own the studio, because then you have to pay me rentals for the lot. I want to own the rights to that movie. I want to own the rights to that TV show. And that's something that I think didn't get talked about enough, that he brought to his people. Like, listen, being in the movie is cool. Do you want to own the rights to that movie? Because then you'll make money forever. Right. And you know, shout out to him, I think, you know, taking that step in that,
absolutely,
in that direction.
Man. Good for him. But yeah, man, so this week, I think that there was a couple teams out there, the Browns and the Bengals. You know, we are who they are who we thought they were.
I'm going to give the Bengals a break on that one, because they had a rookie
quarterback.
And they shouldn't have missed that kick. But the Browns, no excuse.
Man, they just got shellacked.
Yes, and listen, I expect the Browns to lose that game, because absolutely. Baltimore is arguably, you know, I would say top 2-3 in the NFL, if not the best team in the NFL. I'm not willing to admit that, because the Titans waxed them last year, but whatever. So Baltimore is a good team. So I didn't expect them to win, but I expect you to put up more than 6 points with the talent that you have on offense.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, is this another new coach for those guys?
Yes, of course. It's Cleveland. So, right. Nobody wants to live there longer than 10 months. But yeah, it's another new coach. It's obviously still Baker. They kept Odell. They kept Landry.
Yeah.
Who's Njoku, the tight end, who's a stud.
They have enough offensive weapons that you should be putting up more than 6 points.
And they addressed the O-line position, which was their weakness. So you should put up more than 6.
Dude, speaking of bad O-lines, man, did you see, I mean, going back to that KC Houston game, Deshaun Watson was running for his life.
Was it last week? Before? I told you he's not going to have a long career, and I hate to. And again,
man.
I love it because he's in the division.
Should have came to Chicago.
Yeah, he might still end up there,
Mitch.
Dude, well, no,
Mitch's
he got the
days are numbered.
Dude, I feel so bad for Deshaun Watson, especially now that they got rid of Hopkins. He doesn't have that security blanket where he can just chuck it up that way and hope that Deshaun comes down with it. And 9 times out of 10 he does. Deshaun Watson is going to have a very limited career because he's going to get hit a lot if they don't address that O-line. I'd be shocked if that coach makes it past this year, because I think the coach makes personnel decisions too, and he's made enough questionable ones at this point. But Deshaun Watson, as much as I hate to admit this because he's in the Titans division, he's the real deal, man. He can ball.
He's really good.
And if you gave that guy time to throw, I'd hate to see what he'd do. Yeah. He would just crush teams, man. It's a shame because I don't think I think it's gonna be too late before they realize that, and he's gonna be an Andrew Luck. Remember Andrew Luck, the Colts offensive line was atrocious for Andrew Luck's first 4 or 5 years. He quit. Yeah, he never recovered. He was always hurt. And people are like, oh, he's soft. I'm like, no, dude, you can't have 300-pound linemen hitting you, 10 times a game. Like, it's just not possible.
And he quit, this is probably digressing a little bit, but he quit just before the season started last year, right? Yeah. Where he just goes, nah.
It was like the eve of opening day. And he was like, no, thank you.
They didn't get no more protection for me.
Yeah, he looked at who the pass rushers were on the other team, and he was like, "Yeah, nah." I felt so bad for that guy because Andrew Luck, and I still think.
Didn't they booed him, right?
Yeah, man, and they booed.
It kind of happened. Was it during preseason or something? I forget.
Yes, the news came out preseason,
and it wasn't supposed to come out,
and it wasn't supposed to. Leaked. And it forced him to do the press conference that evening.
That's right, and he was there, and it was like hitting everybody, man, social media,
which is weird. I do think if you're him, you should have quit sooner. But to your point, I wonder. Obviously, he's struggling to stay healthy. Maybe he was hoping he could come back from it. But again, you can't get hit. Like people were like, oh, he's soft. No one's built to take shots 10, 15 times a game from a 300-pound man or 250-pound man running full speed. Like you're not. No one is. So, the reason Brady and all these guys have had this longevity is because they've kept them clean, man. Like they've protected them. Brady has had 2 or 3 atrocious offensive lines, and what they do is they adjust the offense to just throw these quick slants or these screens or these bubble passes, like because they knew they couldn't protect them, and you just get the ball out of his hands. Andrew Luck never had that, man. Andrew Luck would hold on to the ball, and he'd always hit a guy in stride, and he would make the right pass, but he'd always take a hit, even when he made the throw. Yeah. And I feel like that's what we're witnessing with Deshaun right now, man. I feel like Deshaun is going to get, at some point in time, man, his body, he's already missed, right? He's already missed for an ACL. He's already missed for a couple things. I go, that's not sustainable, man.
Good thing he's young.
Yeah, Andrew Luck retired at before 30? He was 29, maybe right at 30.
I don't remember, but he definitely didn't have that many years in the NFL.
Yeah,
but we had KC kept rolling from their Super Bowl win.
Didn't skip a beat.
We had the Patriots continuing their winning ways with Cam Newton. Did you see what he wore?
I did.
He looked like Tweety Bird.
Bruh, he looked like the CEO of Twinkie. You seen that shit? Bro, he always looks like a villain from a Disney movie. This guy, bro.
I think there's a suit that there's an old Jim Carrey movie called The Mask. He wears like this yellow suit like that. So he wears this like bright like Tweety Bird yellow suit, this sort of like almost like a top hat, and then his shoes have like the old Batman like sitcom, like early, before we were born, Batman. So where they would like
Adam West
punch each other, yes,
yeah,
pow. And it would be like pow, and so his shoes have like bam with the like the
lightning,
yes,
kind of the comic strip bubbles or whatever,
yeah, that's it, the comic strip bubbles. So it has that on the top of his shoes. They're like glittery. It says bam. He's got the yellow suit on, man. So, but kudos to him. Come back from injury. And playing his ass off. They did what they always do, man. They do enough to win.
They do. Dude, what's that movie that Splash Mountain is based off of?
The old one?
Yes. He looked like the villain from that. Whatever that movie is, like Burr Bear or some shit like that. Burr Rabbit. I don't know. Isn't that what's in that?
I don't know. We talked about that in an episode. I forget.
I can't remember, but he looks like he should be like the sheriff in that, or like the evil sheriff in that. Dude, one of the things that stood out to me in that was where they felt comfortable with Cam. They didn't trust him yet. They didn't let him make deep throws. They ran him a lot. They ran him a lot, which so to me that told me, hey, you're a rental. They didn't care about keeping him healthy. You're not our long-term solution, because Belichick is smart enough to know you can't get away with that in the NFL. Like eventually you're gonna get hurt if you're Cam. You can't get hit, and Cam's a big dude. It's my thing about Lamar. I think Lamar Jackson's talented, and he appears to be able to make all the throws. they got to stop running him because at some point in time, he's elusive now. Someone's going to catch him. Like, you can't get hit by a 250-pound linebacker and weigh 170 pounds soaking wet and just eat
and
that.
Those are the guys, man, when they take off, especially like a Lamar Jackson, where you go, like, he's so fast, he's so elusive. If you get a shot on him, you're going to take it.
You're going to take it, right? Because you're right. Because he's so elusive that when you do have a shot, you go, oh, I'm going to make this count.
Yeah, right.
And you want, and he makes you look stupid.
Yep.
So you want to put a lick on him. Yeah. Like, let's be honest. Like, he does these spin moves and he makes these guys look stupid. So when you do get a shot at him, if you're coming at him blindside, you have to be like chomping at the bit, going, I'm gonna make this guy pay.
Yeah, gonna make him think twice about the next run.
It's a fair point,
the guy is the closest thing to a video game that I've ever seen.
Dude, he's Michael Vick in his prime. You remember Michael Vick in his prime was stupid to watch. Yeah. Matter of fact, I banned him from Madden at one point in time when we played Madden. I was like, no, you can't pick him because it was so stupid. Like, dude, I saw Michael Vick, I think towards the tail end of that crazy run in Tampa live. Even live, it looked like you were watching a video game.
Really?
He took off, and it might have even been a preseason game. I don't even think it counted. He took off, and I remember looking at that going, are you serious? Like, he was so clearly faster than everyone else on the field.
Yeah.
It looked fake. It like in the video game, I used to get shout out to anybody who played Madden 04, and Michael Vick was like the cheat code in that game. Like, if you pick Michael Vick, it was hated. Like, people would have rules, like you're not allowed to pick the Falcons. Like, it was crazy. And because he was so, like, you remember playing Tecmo Bo? Yeah. You play like Bo Jackson, and you couldn't tackle Bo Jackson. So this is Michael Vick in Madden. You couldn't catch him. Like, he was so fast, it was comically like fast. It was stupid. It didn't make sense. Then I saw him alive, and I was like, holy shit.
You're like, oh, it's real.
It's real. He was so much faster than people. He took off, and you're like, did someone just fast forward life? Like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I've never seen anything like it. Never seen Lamar live, but I'd imagine
it has to be like that.
He brings me back to that feeling I had watching Michael Vick going, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, this is an athlete playing quarterback. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, that's awesome. So then we had the Bucks, who I thought were really sloppy, right? The Bucks got Tom Brady this year. I thought they were super sloppy. I was really hyped for that game, actually.
Yeah,
actually, man, I didn't watch any games because my Bears were on, but I don't have the Sunday ticket, so I didn't watch it. And then I was looking forward to the Bucks Saints. Had that first drive. They looked really good, but then it was like, oh man, like they just kind of stalled. They couldn't really do much. They did turn it up a little bit in the second half and end up losing the game, what have you. What's funny was I found that, so you know they have, we talked about this last week where they picked up Leonard Fournette, right? And so Leonard Fournette had a quote where he's like, for the first time in my life, I have a quarterback. Meanwhile, Gardner Minshew was like 19 of to 20 for 3 touchdowns.
I hate that he did that well. I hate that he did that well. Uncle Rico.
Shout out to Uncle Rico. Shout out to the Jags.
Dude, I don't think that's sustainable for Gardner. Obviously, the 19 for 20 is not. But I don't think... I just don't think he's going to be that good, period. But
it's going to be fun while it lasts.
The Bucks didn't worry me, man. Like, so I watched that game and I thought they've never played a game together. I don't care how much you practice. Like, game time is different. The defenses you see are going to be different. The speed's different. So I actually worried. Like, after that game, I felt good about the Bucks. I went, you're only going to build from here. You're going to get better. One of the things that I couldn't help but laugh at was Brady would normally rip receivers in half.
And he wasn't doing it.
Yes. And he was talking to them really calmly. But I think understanding the, like, hey,
there's no preseason.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. We haven't had that much time together. Yeah. I know I saw that too. I was actually looking forward to seeing him yank somebody up.
Yep, me too.
But that'll come.
Yeah, no, it definitely will come. But I think what that told me was we haven't had these reps in real time. Because, and actually the coach came out afterwards, which I thought was interesting. The first pick he throws, Mike Evans runs the wrong route. And you can tell in real life because you go, it was so atrociously bad that you go, someone was off there. And the coach comes out and said, Mike Evans actually read the defense right. He goes, he shouldn't have gone post. He was supposed to stop and I think cut left or whatever it was, or cut right. And he goes, so Mike Evans made the right read and Brady just overthrew it. I mean, the other one was on the wide receiver. But I thought it was interesting that the coach afterwards took it upon himself to go like, yeah, I was shocked Brady was that bad. and basically said like, yeah, he read the defense wrong there. Yeah, it said the wide receiver made the right play there. There was some where he goes, oh, he was right in that scenario. But I wonder, I know Belichick treated Brady, quote unquote, like everybody else, but he didn't publicly rip him like that, right? But I did think that gave me, if that's what you look like game one and you put up almost 30, you're going to be fine. Like they'll build off that. They're going to get more reps together in real time against real teams. I think they're going to be good. I think the teams that have been together for a long time looked good yesterday, right? I hate preseason, but I think it clearly showed that you need a game or two, at least of preseason. And obviously the rookies need a chance to make the team. But the teams that have been together for a long time look fine, look like they never skipped a beat, as you should. And then the teams that are newly put together are the ones that struggled, like Tampa. Like most of Tampa is new. And especially if you change a quarterback, you're a new team because for Brady, and he mentioned it's a new offense, it's new lingo, it's new receivers, new everything, the cadence, everything about it is new. But the Saints worried me more than the Bucks did because the Saints have been together for a long time.
Yeah, in the second half, they didn't really do well.
No. And I felt like if Tampa Bay was playing together for the first time, I don't care how talented you are, if you're the Saints, you should have put it on them. And maybe it was not having the true home field advantage, but I felt like the Saints didn't do enough to show me, oh, you should be balling on teams like this game one because you've been together, you know where you're going to be. Yeah,
definitely, man. Take away that pick six, and it's a different ballgame.
Absolutely. And how many points then do you put up as Breeze in that offense? Like Thomas, who I think is a great receiver, wasn't as open as he normally is. Breeze didn't make the throws he normally makes as Breeze. And again, maybe that's some rust. Maybe that's getting in the swing of things. But you guys have been together for a long time. They worried me more. I kind of left that game going, I expected, Tampa Bay and the Bucks to light it up. Probably unrealistic because they never played together. And going, damn, man, the Saints have been together for a long time. What's their excuse? I felt worse about that team going because some people have picked them as a Super Bowl favorite, and I just went, I don't know about that, man. I think Breeze might be. I think he showed his age yesterday.
Listen, I don't want to get into Aaron Rodgers. We're just gonna say Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers.
Y'all go ahead and keep drafting.
Was like QBs. Vintage Aaron Rodgers yesterday, but you will apologize to Mr. Russell Wilson.
Who'd he beat?
Doesn't matter.
I'm not giving him credit for beating the Falcons.
It doesn't. Do you know what's funny, man? Who's the Falcons quarterback?
Matt Ryan. Yeah.
He threw for like over 400 yards yesterday.
Yeah, because
and they got smashed.
Seattle's defense is trash.
They got smashed, bro. This dude threw for 351, 4 touchdowns. Give him his props.
I'm gonna give him his props. I never said he was bad. I said he's overrated.
I almost made you apologize to him and Dak this week.
Listen, man, I'm not apologizing. Actually, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned Dak. I'm gonna get off topic really quick. I think Dak came up this week and was talking about struggling. I don't know if you saw this. He was struggling with anxiety and depression.
I did see something about this, but I didn't realize what he was talking about.
So he kind of came out and said that the COVID thing put him in a funk.
Okay.
He said, "Yeah, man, I couldn't even find the motivation to work out." He's like, I couldn't find the motivation to go. Then he came out. His brother committed suicide during the pandemic, and he came out, and we knew his brother had passed. No one knew why or how, and he basically came out and said his brother killed himself. So anyway, he comes out and he talks about that, which I thought was awesome, man. I think for someone in his position, being a star quarterback and a iconic team, to come out and say yeah, man, I struggled with anxiety, I struggled with depression, I this COVID thing was bad for me. I thought it was big. I think it's interesting. I think it's good that people hear that coming from someone like him who presumably has it all. So I thought it was big of him. I thought it was super mature. It gave me a lot more respect for him as a person. And then Skip Bayless, man, goes off on this thing about going oh, you're showing weakness and your team's gonna think you're soft. Yeah, and listen, I know Skip Bayless makes a living off saying.
Well, what did Shannon Sharp say to that?
He ripped him.
They both did?
No. Shannon Sharp ripped. Actually, he didn't go into it as hard as I thought he should. Then Skip came back out and clarified his comments and tried to say oh no, I was meaning that I thought it was soft for him to complain about having anxiety about COVID, kind of like we all do type thing.
Right.
Which. Again, listen, Skip Bayless makes a living. I don't think Skip Bayless means 80% of the shit he says. I think he just says it.
It doesn't. And it doesn't really matter.
But I think in that scenario, man, to come out and rip a guy like that, listen, I'm going to rip his play and stuff like that. I'm going to rip the fact that he's asking for $40 million. I'm never gonna rip you for coming out and talking about your struggles with like depression or anxiety or coping with your brother or doing that stuff, man. I thought it was kind of a low blow, but shout out to him. I think again, man, I think as guys, we don't talk enough about the struggles we go through, like internally.
Absolutely.
And I thought that him coming from a quarterback in the National Football League on the Dallas Cowboys, I think that's super important for guys like us to hear and go, fuck, I'm not alone. Like when I have my moments, like a guy like him, who presumably, again, has it all, struggles sometimes too. And so shout out to him, man. I think they still lost, but you know.
No, but absolutely, man. I mean, mental health is a huge issue. I have family members that have, struggled with mental health and if you're around anyone that sort of struggles with whether it's anxiety or depression, like, that it's very real. Yeah. And so, if you have that, or somebody, like, it's nothing to be ashamed about, and go get some help. Oh, yeah, but probably the folks in your house can't help you.
Nope. But listen, Cowboys lost as they should have, and then Seattle, good start. So I'm gonna eat shit on that one, but I bet you they don't win that division.
We'll see.
Because Arizona started off with a win.
Yep.
LA started off with a win. Who else was in that division?
Niners.
They lost because they lost to Arizona. Okay, so that's going to be an interesting division, actually. That might be, you know what? I got to say, that might be the hardest division now in the NFL. I was looking at it, and I'm going, I can't think of a tougher up and down division in the NFL than that one, because the Niners aren't a trash team anymore. Arizona, as young as Kyler Murray is, this kid's putting up numbers.
They're having fun over there,
yeah,
dude.
They're having fun. And that's actually a perfect way to describe it. They're having fun, and so they're going to put up crazy numbers. And the Rams showed glimpses yesterday of being that Super Bowl Rams team. Glimpses. Like, then sometimes they just looked awful. But there were glimpses in there where you went, all right, it's still in there somewhere. Yeah. And maybe as the season goes on, they'll get back in the groove of things. So that might be the hardest division in the NFL. I'm going to have to give if Russell wins that division, man, I'm going to have to give him credit for that, because with that defense who can't stop anybody, and he wins that, man, I'm gonna have to eat it. Yeah.
Yes.
I will.
We're gonna hold you to that, man. Don't worry. I won't forget.
He's still corny.
All right, bro. Tell them where they can find us.
Yo, man. At the Carbon Footprint on Instagram. We're the Carbon Footprint Podcast on YouTube. I'm at Juan on Stage on Instagram, Juan on Stage on Twitter, Juan on Stage on Facebook. I have all those. At some point in time, I'm going to make some pretty poor attempts at some stand-up here, so I'll let you guys know when I do that. So if anybody wants to come and laugh at me or with me, whatever. But yeah, man, shout out to you guys. We got a lot of feedback from the last few episodes. It's been awesome. We do try to adjust, or at least we do have conversations, I think, behind the scenes about your feedback and about how we can make this better. And at least
yeah, we absolutely do. I mean, that's one thing. The comments that you guys leave on IG or on Facebook or things that I get personal texts as well. Appreciate all of it. And like I said, Juan and I talk about all of it. And see how we can, incorporate any like suggestions and try to make the show better every time we get on. So bear with us as always.
Which you say bear with us. I won't take too long on this, but if you haven't heard that episode, please go back and listen. That's probably one of my
episode
favorites.
3, I think.
Yeah, episode 3, right?
Yeah.
But there was a thing this week. I won't get too into it, but there was a guy this week who went hunting. He was a 14-year-old kid, which is basically what you were. So there's a story, and bear with us, that Sean says
I was 12.
He was 12 about hunting, and I brought up some points about the maybe the responsibility factor of this adult that left Sean in the woods. Anyway, this 14-year-old gets dropped off in like Ohio or Michigan. I think it was Michigan. He was dropped off to go hunting somewhere. Yeah. He falls asleep in the middle of a field, like laying down, and he gets run over by like a corn chipper thing or whatever. Yeah, it dices him up. But he's like a 14-year-old kid. But it made me think of your story, which, listen, I'm sorry, I can't imagine what that's like as a family, dealing with that 14-year-old. But it just made me think of your story when I'm like, what the fuck would have happened if something would have happened to you out in these woods?
Right.
I don't know. But anyway, you guys go back and listen to Bear With Us because it's pretty funny. And I just still can't believe that Sean was left unattended in the woods for a day.
It was only a few hours.
Yeah. And with next to bears, but whatever. But thank you guys. And shout out to Sweden. Sweden is like top 3 of listeners. I don't know who in Sweden, but shout out to you guys.
Well, you know,
India is number 2. So,
well, you know, it's like U.S. is like 90%. But shout out to anybody out there.
Sweden's like 6% of listeners, which
Nice.
shows
We
you how much.
got some India folks out there. We love all y'all, man. Thanks for the support. We appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys. Peace.
Peace.